Simply Cooking by MmmChef is brought to you in part by CPI Interiors. A great kitchen starts with a great design. Get that custom home interior you dream of. At CPI Interiors, we listen and beautiful happens.
Hi, welcome to Simply Cooking by MmmChef. I'm Daniela Croco and I'm a holistic chef. I take traditional and classic recipes and turn them into nutrient-dense and simple eats. I'm going to show you how taking just a few hours a week to plan, prep, and store things can help you save money and time in the kitchen during a busy week. Stay tuned. Most of my personal chef and clients are busy people just like you, trying to get dinner on the table when you've got 100 things going on during the week. I'm about to show you how you can take a few hours a week and create a whole bunch of meals from the same ingredients so that you have things ready to go. I love to have a chicken roasted ready to go for the rest of the week. You can use it for so many different recipes, meals, and even as a snack. If you don't eat chicken and you don't eat meat, that's okay too. You can take things like tofu or tempeh and have them baked and ready to go in a container, just like shredded chicken, and use them the same way as you would. I'm going to show you how I like to prep my chicken simply and get it into the oven. Today we're also going to be talking about breakfast on the go ideas, snack on the go ideas, and creating 3 meals out of similar ingredients. So I love to take fresh herbs. I'm using rosemary today, but you can really use any type of fresh herb you want. And if you don't have any fresh herbs, you can use dry herbs. And if you don't like herbs, you can just use plain old salt and pepper. I also love to use lemon. I'm gonna slice a couple pieces of the lemon and lay them on top of the chicken to add flavor to the skin. And then the other half of the lemon, I'm actually gonna lift the chicken and squeeze the lemon juice right into the cavity and take this half of lemon and put it right in there. It's going to create a lovely citrus aroma, and it's going to give the chicken lots of great flavor as well. I'll lay these little lemon slices on the outside of my chicken. Perfect. I'm just going to wipe my hands here. I'll give them a real wash in just a second. I'm going to drizzle some olive oil on top of the chicken. And I'm not going to season it until after I pull it apart because I may want to season it differently for different recipes and different uses. I'm just going to get this in the oven. I've got my oven set at 400. There we go. Chicken is in the oven and it is roasting, and I am going to work on a couple other things. So I've got some quinoa cooking. I like to cook a grain once a week, and I like to use it for different things throughout the week. This week I'm doing quinoa, and I'm going to be using that to make a breakfast item as well as in my lunch and even in my dinner for today. I've already prepared some vegetables, and I've cut them ready to go for veggies and dip, but I'm going to take the same veggies, carrots, and celery that I have beside me, and I'm going to chop them up for a stir fry for my dinner tonight. Once these are all chopped and ready to go, I'm going to move them over to the sink and give them a quick wash so that everything is nice and clean. It's all about taking simple, economical ingredients. Everybody usually has carrots and celery in their fridge, or whatever vegetables your family really likes to eat. I always have broccoli, and I always have onions and garlic too, so I'm going to use those with my stir fry later on. Another trick that I like to do is when I come home from the grocery store, I like to have things ready to go. I wash all of my greens and dry them well and pack them in the fridge. And then I also like to peel a whole bunch of garlic and a bunch of onions and throw them into my food processor. And then I have chopped onion and chopped garlic ready to go throughout the week when I want to add flavor to something and I don't have to worry about peeling and chopping and taking that extra time. I also always have a pre-made dip in the fridge. This week it's hummus, but it really can be anything, a yogurt dip, a sunflower seed dip, or even just some balsamic and oil, so that I have some flavor or something to quickly throw a salad dressing together with. I also love to have veggies and dip on hand or pre-cut veggies for a quick snack if I'm coming home from work in a rush and I'm ravenous before dinner is ready. And I also have some boiled eggs in the fridge that I boiled earlier when I was getting the quinoa together. I love to have boiled eggs on hand ready to go. If you don't eat eggs or animal products, there are many different options for you. You can pre-soak and boil up some chickpeas and have them ready to go. And as mentioned earlier, things like tempeh and tofu and pre-made plant-based meat options and things like that. I'm gonna grab my strainer and get these veggies washed, and we're gonna let the chicken roast, and the quinoa is almost cooked. So when we come back from the break, I'm gonna show you how to turn this quinoa not only into a breakfast, but also into a lunch item, and hopefully our chicken will be almost ready to take out. See you soon.
This program is brought to you in part by CPI Interiors, designing customized home spaces for all tastes and budgets for over 20 years. At CPI Interiors, we listen and beautiful happens.
Now that my hands are nice and washed and so are all the veggies that I chopped earlier, I've got my chicken in the oven roasting. It's smelling really good and almost ready, and my quinoa is cooked. Now I'm gonna show you how to take all these ingredients and kind of turn them into multiple different things so that you can be set up for the week. I love to make little breakfast jars. I think they're great as a grab on the go, as well as if you don't have them for breakfast, you can use them as a snack as well. So I'm gonna turn these 4 jars in front of me into a breakfast quinoa bowl. I'm gonna put some cooked quinoa in the bottom of each jar. And I'm not gonna use all the quinoa because I'm also gonna use this quinoa to create a lunch salad, and then I'm gonna use the rest of the quinoa as a bed of grain for my stir fry for dinner. This one needs a little bit more. Excellent. I always have frozen fruit, fresh fruit, berries, any kind of fruit really goes really well with this. If you don't eat fruit or you're staying away from sugar, you can leave that out and you can use things like walnuts and almonds and nuts and seeds. I'll be right back. I'm just grabbing my maple syrup and my fresh berries that I'm gonna be adding to these. I love to drink smoothies, so I always have fruits ready to go. But again, as I said, you could be grabbing some frozen fruit from your freezer instead of fresh fruit from the fridge. Top it with some fruit here. Now I'm going to top it off with some coconut milk and some maple syrup. Now, of course, if you drink real milk, you can use real milk, or you can use almond milk, or whatever your liquid of preference is. I've even had some people make the same breakfast with orange juice or even apple juice as the sweetener and liquid in with the quinoa. All right, I'm gonna pour a tiny little bit of maple syrup on top of each one, which can be left out, of course, if you're staying away from sweetness. Put these to the side. And here we have it. I've got some coconut milk ready to go. Oh, that's all right. Where there is a mess, there was a delicious meal made. Give this a nice wipe. So at this point, if you were going to eat it, you could go into your pantry and grab some walnuts or some nuts and seeds to add them on top. I like to store them in my fridge without the nuts and seeds because then they don't get soggy and soft. And in the morning, before I eat it, I just grab a sprinkle and add them on top fresh. But if you are that much on the go and you don't have that kind of time, now would be the time to add those walnuts or those almonds before you put them in the fridge. So I'm going to set these to the side. So now my quinoa breakfast bowls are ready to go. Then I'm going to take the quinoa and turn it into a salad jar. But you know what? I think my chicken might be ready to come out of the oven. Let me see. Oh, it is, and it's nicely browned and beautifully roasted. I wish you could smell it. I'm going to set it to the side because I need it to cool down so that I can touch it with my hands and pull it apart. Now while the chicken is resting, I'm gonna pull my 2 big mason jars out. This is what I like to build salads in. This way you can put the lid on, it's nice and tight, and you can throw it in your purse, or if it falls over in the car or what have you, there's no mess. And the ingredients stay nice and separated, which I like as well. But there is a little bit of a rule to building a salad jar. We wanna make sure that all the things that would go wilty and all the things that are crunchy stay that way. So here are my rules. First, I'm gonna make a little salad dressing. I've got a jar here. I've got some balsamic vinegar. I'm gonna pour that in. I've got my trusty olive oil. I think olive oil might be one of my favorite ingredients because I use it in pretty much everything. Even when I'm making waffles and things like that, instead of using vegetable oil or coconut oil, I actually like to use a light olive oil. And then I'm gonna take those pre-chopped onions that I chopped when I got home from the grocery store the other day, and the pre-chopped garlic that I chopped in the food processor when I got home from the store the other day, and add a little bit to my dressing. I like a lot of garlic, so. Excellent. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of Dijon mustard because I want the dressing to emulsify. I want the dressing to stay together because I'm actually gonna put it in the bottom of the jar, and I won't be able to shake it before I eat it. Like I won't be able to shake the dressing separately, so I want it to be all together. Put the lid on and give that a good shake. Perfect. Now I'm gonna split this dressing into the bottom of these 2 jars. Excellent. So now what do we put next? Well, I wouldn't put my lettuce next because the lettuce will get all wilty if it's touching the dressing. So while we were on the break, I chopped up this red onion, and I love red onions sitting in a little bit of vinegar. It actually helps give it a quick pickle and it stays nice and crunchy. So I really like to use onions as my base in the bottom of my jar. If you weren't eating meat and you were using something like a black bean or a chickpea or something like that, now would be a great time to add it to the jar because it also doesn't get soggy when it's touching dressing like this. Excellent, look at that. Now that we're at this point, what do we do? I'm going to take a little bit of cucumber and I'm gonna chop it up and put it in there. I also like cucumber a little bit pickled, kind of like a pickle. Vinegar doesn't do anything bad to cucumber, so it's another nice vegetable that will hold up at the bottom of your jar. Perfect. Now at this point, I'm gonna add a spoonful of the quinoa. The quinoa, or whatever grain you choose to cook, whether it's rice or even pasta noodles or what have you, it will soak up the dressing nicely and it also won't go soggy. So that's why I'm gonna put it at the bottom. My quinoa is still a little bit warm, but that's okay. I mean, I'm just like you. I'm in a rush, so I'm not gonna wait for the quinoa to cool down. It'll still give the same effect, and it actually might warm up the dressing a little bit and kind of give the onion a little bit more of a full pickled flavor. Excellent. So now we're at this point. I'm gonna set these jars aside because the next thing that I would do with these jars is add the chicken. But I'm gonna pull the chicken apart, and it's not ready for me to do that yet. Earlier, I washed these veggies, and I had these veggies here like this that I had already chopped and have ready for veggies and dip. I love to have veggies and dip ready on the go. So I have cucumbers, celery, carrots, and cherry tomatoes that I'm gonna put in a container so that later in the week I can just grab them. And then I have this stir fry veggie. So I took the same vegetables and I cut them in a different way, and now I have these ready to go for a stir fry tonight. I've got my container here. I'm gonna put the veggies on one side of my container. Then later when I pull apart my chicken, I'm gonna put a nice portion for 2 people of chicken in the middle. And then on the outside, I'm going to put the rest of this quinoa. So that tonight or tomorrow or whatever day I get home and I don't feel like cooking, but I want a hot meal, I can take this whole container with the shredded chicken in it and throw it into a frying pan and have a quick stir fry. I'm gonna make the dressing for that too, but I'm just gonna set this aside for now. I also boiled some eggs earlier, so I'm gonna grab those. Having boiled eggs on hand are not only great to have as a snack or a grab and go lunch or a grab and go breakfast or anything like that, but they're also a great addition to things like salad jars, or even you could chop up a boiled egg and add it into the end of your stir fry for dinner. I'm just gonna peel one. The trick to peeling a boiled egg is actually to hit the top and the bottom. There usually is a little air bubble that lives inside the egg, and it tends to gravitate towards either the top or the bottom of the egg. So if you tap where the air bubble happens to be, then it opens it up and it's not as hard to peel, and you don't take half the egg with you when you're peeling it. I'm sure those of you who have boiled eggs and peeled them before know exactly what I'm talking about. A little bit of that just happened right there, but that's okay. Another trick that I like to use is you can actually take boiled eggs and peel them under running water, and it will help create less of a mess. But that's not that big of a deal. So the reason I'm doing this guy is because I'm gonna add half of the egg into the bottom of each one of my salad jars. There we go. Excellent. Also just gonna put these to the side. Now the chicken's still a little bit hot, but I'm a chef, so I don't seem to feel the heat like I used to. My fingers have gotten quite used to touching hot things. And I actually have a container that I'm going to pull the chicken apart into, but I forgot it over there, so let me grab it. Here we go. So this chicken is going to be eaten in quite a few different ways. So first I'm going to take it apart by taking off the legs and the wings and putting them into my container so that I can have those ready to go just like that. Eating a chicken leg or eating a chicken wing for dinner with a side salad is also a nice quick way to have dinner ready to go. And when it's cooked properly, it comes apart nice and easily. So I've got my 2 drumsticks that I'm going to be pulling apart right now. And my wings on the side that I'm going to pull right off, and they're ready to go. And now I have a portion for dinner for later with the 2 chicken drumsticks and the 2 wings ready to go. And these lemons have lots of flavor. I'm not going to waste them. I'm going to put them to the side. And all the lovely juice in the bottom of this pan, I'm actually going to put it into a jar so that when I make my stir fry tonight, I can add those juices in with the stir fry for extra flavor. There is no rhyme and reason on how I'm going to pull this chicken apart. I'm just going to stick my hands right in it and pull it all off the bones and get really messy. So I'm going to take a break while I do that and wash my hands up and have everything ready to go so that you guys can see what it looks like when it's all cleaned up. We'll see you after the break. Now I've got my chicken all pulled apart, my board's clean and my hands are clean, and I am peeling an onion so that I can chop it to add to the rest of my stir fry container. Stir fry can really be anything you want. I always have frozen peas in the freezer, so I will add those into the stir fry later on this evening when I'm actually making the stir fry. But right now I'm just gonna set it up for myself so that when I wanna make dinner, it literally will come together in 15 minutes or less. Some chopped onion to go in with my carrot, celery, and quinoa. I've got a little leftover piece of fennel, and I don't like to waste anything, so I'm gonna add this in with my stir fry veggies as well. Some people like to snack on fennel with their veggies and dip, but it's not for me. I love to use it in recipes instead, so I'm gonna add that in there. So I've got the cooked quinoa, I've got the veggies all ready to go, and I'm gonna put about 2 portions of cooked pulled chicken right here in the middle. And the reason I do that is because later on, when it's time to make the dinner, I'm gonna put some oil in a hot pan, and I'm gonna start by adding in the vegetables first. Then the vegetables will get nice and cooked, Then I'll add the second level, which is the chicken, so it can get nice and hot. And then the third and very last thing that I'll add to the pan is the quinoa. And as I'm adding the quinoa to the pan and stirring, that's when I'm going to add the dressing or the stir-fry sauce that I'm about to make for you. I have a jar of sesame oil. I'm going to put in a little dollop of Dijon mustard, the pre-cut onions from my fridge, and the pre-cut garlic from my fridge. I like a little extra onion in there. And the juice of 2 limes. But I'm actually going to save half of one of the limes and cut it in half so that I even have the garnish ready for when it's time to eat. Squeeze that in there. And then I'm going to put the lid on and give it a good shake. And I'm actually going to store this right inside the container. So my dinner for my husband and I is literally just ready to go. All I need to do is take out a frying pan and add a little bit of oil to the pan. And it's, you know, 3 dirty dishes if you include the jar. All right, so now my dinner is prepped. My chicken is pulled apart, so I'm going to move back to my salad jars that I was working on earlier. Now I'm going to add some chicken. I'm not going to use the skin, but I am going to use the breast for this. I'm going to put in about a half a breast. Where's my other breast? There we go. Same thing, about a half a breast. Excellent. Oh, the next ingredient I was going to add is cherry tomatoes, but I left the bowl over there, so I'm going to add a little handful of cherry tomatoes to each one. Oh, one ran away. I'll have to get that later. Caught that one though. All right. And at this point is when you would add your greens. I have some romaine lettuce, but you can use mixed greens, spinach, iceberg, really anything that you have. And if you're not a lettuce person, you don't have to use lettuce at all. You can just fill the jar with more chopped veggies, or you can use a smaller jar and have a smaller salad. The reason I like to put the greens on the top is so that they stay away as far as possible from the dressing and the quinoa and the egg and the chicken, so that the moisture from those ingredients don't wilt my lettuce down by the time it's ready to have lunch. Look at that, look at that, look at that. And then I love to add a bit of crunch to a salad. So I like to put my nuts and seeds on the very, very top for the same reason as not to have it touching the dressing at the bottom so that they get all soggy. Top that with that. And look at that. I have lunch ready to go for myself and my hubs, or for me for 2 days. Throw this in your purse, and then when it's time to have lunch, you can get a big bowl and you flip it right upside down and the dressing falls over top of the top. Or you can turn it upside down, which I'm not going to do right now, and give it a really, really good shake, and you can eat it right out of the jar. So we've got 2 salad jars and dinner ready to go. Now the rest of this chicken I'm just going to leave in the container like this. I'm going to give my cats little snacks from here when I open the fridge, and then I'm also going to use it later in the week to add to salads. Maybe I'll make a wrap with it, or maybe I'll just make a little bit of salad and have some roasted chicken ready to go for a lunch or a quick afternoon snack. I have the veggies that I cut up earlier for the veggies and dip, and I always have homemade hummus in the fridge, so I have that ready to go. I've got my 4 breakfast jars. The thing about what's great about these breakfast jars is they can be in the fridge for up to a week. There's no animal products in them, so they don't go bad, whereas the chicken will only stay good in the fridge for about 5 days. And if I don't get to these quinoa jars, what I can actually do is just throw them into the freezer, and then on a busy day when I know the next day is busy, I can take it out the night before and put it in the fridge, and it'll be defrosted and ready for me to eat in the morning. Now, I also didn't have any of the bones in this container from the chicken, but I don't throw those away either. I threw them into a bag that I always have in my freezer, and I keep them until I get probably 5 or 6 carcasses all together, and I make veggie stock with chicken bones, and it makes a great base for a lot of soups, and sometimes I even drink it when I'm not feeling well because it's full of collagen and lots of vitamins and minerals. All right, and we have our boiled eggs. So as you see, I took about an hour and a half of time today and roasted a whole chicken, boiled some eggs, made some quinoa, some dressing, and I have enough meals for myself alone for almost 5 days here, but if it's just me and my hubby eating everything, there's enough for us to have meals for 2 or 3 days. So just a little bit of work and a little bit of pre-planning can get me through the week, and I don't have to worry about when I'm in a rush and pressed for time, whether I'm gonna have to go grab a burger and fries or if I'm gonna have some really healthy, nutritious, and nutrient-dense food ready to go. I really, really enjoyed doing this and showing you guys what I do for myself. I prep for my clients, but I also prep for myself. I definitely try to practice what I preach. See you next time.